out tonight, Corky Peterson is an avid genealogist and has been at it for over 30 years now. She's presented to our group on a number of programs, and I might add that she has been a tremendous help to me in finding speakers. Corky's family came to California in 1850 and ended up settling in a small town in Northern California right at the tip of the Lost Coast. I'd not heard about the Lost Coast until I read your called Petrolia. In the late 1970s, a couple found two very old photo albums in a dumpster in Greenbrae, which is in Marin County. They tried to find the owner at that time, but were unable to. But they hung on to those albums. And about 5 years ago, this couple was going through their things, downsizing, and came upon the albums once again. And this time, their search paid off, and at least partially, they were successful. They were able to identify the fact that the albums came from Petrolia, and so they sent the albums there. And in Petrolia, was it a genealogy society?
Yeah.
Got a hold of, were given the albums, and they identified them as to be belonging to the Rudolph family, which are Corky's ancestors. So the photos were scanned and sent to Corky, and one of the albums, she says, was mostly people that she did not recognize, but from that experience came to tonight's program. So without giving you any more information, because that's all Corky gave me, let's do a hand for Corky Peterson.
I want to say one thing first is James Baker is going to be our speaker at our annual seminar down in Fresno, September 30th. And we'll make sure we get a flyer down to you guys. Yeah. So you know how good he is. So it'll be good this year. It'll be worth the drive. Okay. We've been framed, picture frames, just a kind of a play on words came up with. And this is what the email came from Mattole Valley Historical Society, and that's basically a genealogical historical society near a little town called Petrolia. It's right at the tip of the Lost Coast. The Lost Coast is the area, you can go up Highway 1 so far, and then all of a sudden it goes inland. Then you have all these little mountains there. That's the Lost Coast, because there's no roads through there or anything. It's about 60, 80 miles there that are just really, where they grow marijuana and everything. And so you know the history of all of these, so yeah. And my Rudolph family lived in Petrolia. My grandmother, at the time, my grandmother had lived in Marin County, and she died at about 1959. So my aunt Norma would have gotten her photo albums. And then my aunt had major back surgery and ended up in an institution. And I'm pretty sure my cousin Topper said that. My mother's tossing, they're no good, They weren't getting along real well. So anyway, boy was I lucky. I don't have any handouts, so, and you'll see why. Around the same time, I got all these photos, and a lot of them, I'm like, who are these people? And I'm trying to figure out what to do. And around that time, Family Search came out with a photo ID program. And so you just go to familysearch.org/discover. You just have to have that discovery on it, just that little add-on, those special games, and see if you're related, if you guys are related in the room, where all of those are. They have the photo ID thing. And this is where you go to Family History Archives, and let's see, I guess I don't really have a light on don't know. Anyway, in the top in the middle, compare a face. Where do you go? Just click on that. And what you do is you put in, I call it a base photo. They say put a photo in of yourself. Red button? Okay, yeah, okay. And so you put in a photo. They say put in a photo of yourself. Then you can put in another photo of who you want to compare it to. So I'll explain it. You'll understand a little bit more later why, it's not just me that I put the photo in. Okay, and the other thing that's going to help you is if you can date the photos. And there's a website called phototree.com. And when I did this slide, they had, and they still have some pictures, but they had a lot of, okay, that better? Okay, so they had a lot of photos in there. They divided by every 10 years. And so from 1850 to 60, they'd have a lot of photos, and you could see a lot of the style of dress, props, and things like that. They no longer have them divided by years, but they still have a lot of photos in there, and they tell you what year it was and stuff, so you can it's still very useful. And there's also books that you can refer to. We do have the books up at Fresno that somebody donated. And then the other thing you could do to date the photos is just Googling. I did some Googling of websites, and they give you clues as to how to date them. And basically, you sort of look at props and what the people are wearing and stuff. So it's very helpful. And you don't have to be perfect, but you want to get in the ballpark. This is the website, and it still has a lot of photos, and it tells you the different types of pictures, if it's a tin type, when you find it and stuff. And you have to kind of remember sometimes, as far as style of dress, at least my ancestors weren't particularly wealthy, and they lived in backwoods areas, so their style might be a little different. So a lot of things to think about. And this is like all the pictures that they would have. I think it's the 1860s. And that all of that helps you date it. Okay, the other thing that helps is if you note the photographer, often it'll have, like, we'll see some that say Macmillan, then it says Marshfield, which was the old name for Coos Bay. So you know it was, a photo came from somewhere around Coos Bay, Oregon, and would have been before 1900 because it became Coos Bay about 1900 or 1902, so that helps you in figuring out who it is. One time I saw an old photo of my husband's family, I don't know who, his great-great-grandmother, but it was not Hollywood or something, Pennsylvania. So, I could look up and figure out where that was. I think it was either in Blair County or close to there, which is where his family lived. And so I was able to kind of know where to go in the census to look for people, And sometimes you can contact the local historical society. They'll have information. Like when she sent me these photos, she told me where a lot of these photos were. Some of them were out of Petrolia, some out of Eureka, and then some, of course, up in Oregon coast there. So all of that helps, and also the props in the photos. And I'll show you how that can help in a little bit. So this is the first album. You can tell it's old, and it had a lot of photos like this. And those three girls, I think I have the very same photo, but I have one, if it's not the same, it's very similar, the three little girls there. And I've been able to figure out who they are now. And this one here, I recognize, this one here is my grandmother. And This one here, I really recognize, that's my dad. And he hated that photo. Because at the time, they always had the little boys dressed as cute little girls with those long golden curls. Yeah, he was a cute little girl. He hated that. Okay, in identifying the first photo album, I saw many familiar photos, like my dad. And many of the photos were taken with a small camera. And a lot of the photos were in the redwoods. So I was pretty sure that photo album was done in Petrolia, or around there, because it's right in the heart of the redwoods there. And I'm pretty sure it belonged to Caroline Langdon Rudolph. Caroline Langdon, my great-grandparents. Almost positive it was. Okay, second album, a little bit older, a little more beat up. It had a lot of photos like this. And they were almost all the photos in this were done by a photographer. And a lot of them had the photo, like this one, Macmillan photo. And I actually recognized those two little girls. That's my grandmother, and that would be her sister. And notice the prop, yeah. The blanket thing they're sitting on there. See another one. Just remember that. And here's another page. You can tell some of these are tintypes, just by how dark they are and stuff. Yeah, this one's definitely a tintype there, if I can hold it right. But I think most of them were tintypes. So, that kind of means they're earlier. Up here, usually some of these were done maybe as late as 1870 or so, but it's usually by then it's progressed to the next type of photography. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how can I use all my knowledge to identify the photos. What can I do? With comparing. Everybody laughs and jokes. Spreadsheets, I do a lot of spreadsheets. And so what I ended up doing, and there was no way to know percentage or anything. Nobody's done anything like this before. So I compared an unknown photo with an unknown photo. And dating the photo really helped a lot because I knew the period, and actually helped me identify a couple of photos. And then look at the props in the photo and then compare with other photos. This is my spreadsheet. You're welcome to look at it. Yeah, you're welcome to look at it. So, let's see, I think, across the top are my unknown photos. And I think down here were known. And sometimes they were unknown to begin with, and then once I identified them, I would use them. And you'll see why. But,
Corky, you said you compared an unknown photo and another unknown photo?
no, the unknown photo would be my base photo,
Okay.
the one from the photo album, yeah. Yeah, and then, so I compared an unknown with known, yeah. And you can see, when you start getting 80 or above, even 75 or above, it's probably the same person, definitely related, definitely. Really above 50%, they're probably related. There's rare exceptions, and I'll show you that. This is a known photo. It was my great-grandmother, Martha Coley Rudolph. I'm pretty sure it was taken in 1881, and she would have been in her early 40s then. And the other thing I've noticed with the photos, because you have to have a photographer come to you then. So there was usually a family occasion, a special one, like a wedding. So most of these are gonna be from weddings. So I compared it with the female here, I compared it with her. 97%. So I've got a picture of her a little younger. About 10 years younger, I'm guessing. And then I compared it with these, and these were probably in the 1860s, just from what they're looking, what they're dressing, and they all look alike. So I'm pretty sure, I was pretty sure that there was a good chance it was my great-grandmother's sisters. They had several of them. Probably one of them would be her, my great-great-grandmother, and a couple of her sisters. So I compared her with that, 61%. Pretty good, pretty good. I couldn't say definitely with that, but definitely related and could be her. So then I compared one a little closer in age, got a higher percentage, and so I'm on the right track, you know. Then I found this one with the little spit curls and stuff, and I started comparing her with 69%, okay, pretty good. Then I compared the one closer in age, 80%, okay. This one here, and this is something you can't really tell, but I was looking, and she has a wedding ring on. And when my grandmother married, she was about 16, and that girl's young. So I said, I bet it is. So I compared with the 66%. Okay. 71, a little closer in age, 92. So the closer in age you can compare, the higher the percentage, okay? So I was able to find, actually it would be my great-great-grandmother's wedding picture, probably. And this was another picture of a young girl I had, I didn't know, and now I know who it was. It was my great-great-grandmother. And here she is with the other, those girls from the 1860s. So it's really hard to tell for sure which one was her, but one of those girls would have been my grandmother. And now back to this picture again. I want to compare the man. That's Thomas Rudolph, and I compared it with him. And someone was able to identify this to help me in dating it. With the coat, it's loose, and men were wearing looser coats like that in the 1850s and 60s. That would be pretty hard for me to do. So I compared them, I came out 75%. I really think it's definitely him, no matter what. Look at the mustache. It's crooked on both of them. It's longer on one side, on the right side, than the left, on both of them. So I really think that's Thomas, because and he would have been, you know, the photo, yeah, sitting down, you know, and so I think that's him, and the reason there's a little bit of facial hair, that usually doesn't make that much difference, and a big difference in age. So this one here was definitely taken 1890 or in the 1890s. Just the style of dress, the style of everything. I could figure that out by the dress, but and she's young. She's about 20. At least I think. She certainly looks young. So I compared it with, that's an Elizabeth Rudolph, would be my great-grandparents' daughter, Elizabeth Rudolph. And I go through the son, William, and definitely very high percentage, very high percentage. Now, this is another picture of Elizabeth, just as high. Now, this is her sister, Ellen. And, again, very high, you know, so, but it really, both Ellen and Elizabeth were born in the 1850s, and they would have been past 30 when that picture was taken. And that woman was not 30, she was closer to 20. So it could not be either of these two girls. So it had to be the third daughter, which was Minnie Rudolph. Okay, and so I had no picture of Minnie, but I do now. And I had this picture, and I compared it with her, and look, 98%. Yeah. And so I feel pretty confident that that's Minnie without a doubt, just because all three girls really resembled each other a lot. And the other two girls were married with a family at this point. Okay, yeah, so that was that one. Then I found this one here was a young girl, and I compared her with Minnie, and I was able to identify who this young girl was. And I think I have, yeah. Now this is a picture I have, I got off the internet, and it's of Matthew Coy, one of my great-great-grandmother's brothers. And so I used this to compare with those two tintype photos I had, 76%, very high, so it's probably a family member there, and 70% too, so probably, and so, yeah. So I really think this one here is Matthew Coy, just by the age of the picture. And a good chance it was taken when he got married, or certainly when one of the family members did get married. Same is true with this one, and this one it would be Isaac Coy, and the other one was Matthew. And he was about 10 years older than Matthew, and he looks a little older. Interesting thing, these two were in the Mariposa Battalion, and you know what happened with them. The Mariposa Battalion were the first white men to see Yosemite Valley. So these two guys were among the first white men to see Yosemite Valley. Two little farm boys from Missouri. Okay, now this one here, I compared and I got 73%. And again, it's telling me he's definitely one of the Coy brothers. And I'm pretty sure it's a John Coy, the youngest son, John H. Coy. And he got married down here, if I remember, I think it was 1874. And so he would have been, I think he would have been about 26 or so. He looks about that age. And those other two pictures could have been taken at this time. I don't know, they could have been taken before, but. So look at that, notice that chair. Look at that little girl, same chair. And that was a picture that I said was Minnie. And Minnie Rudolph was about 8 or 10 in 1874. So that's another way I know that the other photo was definitely Minnie there. This photo, it's kind of hard to tell the chair. But this is my grandmother and her two sisters. And let's see, my grandmother would be the one with the long curly hair. So she was 10, maybe 12. And so she was born in 82, so this is about 94. And again, I wrote weddings down here. Yeah, I'm not sure whose wedding it was, but anyway. And look, that chair. And that's Justin, you can tell the same background. And I know that's Justin, who's the youngest brother there. And Crippen was a studio out of Petrolia. Okay, so the conclusions of the second photo album, the photos were all done by a photographer. And so they were often taken at a wedding or a major family event. And all the photos in that album were really family members or someone that married into the family, which kind of also helped me in the identification of them too. And I could conclude that this photo album belonged to Martha Coy Rudolph, who's my great-great-grandmother. She was born, I think, in 1836 or 38. I think she was born in 38 in Missouri. Yeah. There's me with the one young girl high school picture compared close to the thing. So that's a pretty high percentage. And this is it with the other little, when she got married, again, 87%, you know, so. I know why I was always interested in the Coy family. Okay, this one here, Macmillan, that's the one from Marshfield, so I know this is taken before 1900. My friend that's very good at dating couldn't really date this one, and I can't either. Probably, well, I don't know, it's hard to say. I'd say the little boy could be, he's probably about 2, maybe 3, and the little girl, 4 or 5, hard to say. And so I compared the little girl with everybody, and that was Ellen Rudolph, pretty high percentage there. That's with Ellen when she got married, not quite so high there. A little boy with Ellen, again very high, so they're definitely Rudolph children. And that's with, there were 2 Rudolph sons, Walter, and that would be Walter when he was a baby, 77%. Possibly it could be Walter. Here's the little boy with Ellen again, or Minnie, and again, pretty high percentage. So the 2 little kids are definitely Rudolph children. There's no doubt about that. And this is my great-grandfather, and definitely no. It didn't look like the rest of them at all. Yeah. And so I've been trying to figure out who that little boy is. It's not my great-grandfather, the 31%, no way. It could be Walter, but Walter was born in November of 75. So if it's him, the photo would have been taken in 77 or 78 in Oregon. Well, the family had moved to Petrolia in 76. And I don't know if you, Petrolia is about 30 miles south of Eureka. And if you drive to Petrolia from Eureka, it's an hour's drive. You know, it's really windy road to the redwoods and everything. So you're not gonna, if you're there, you're stuck there for a long time. Today you can get out, you know, but then you're stuck there. So no, I don't think it was Walter at all. No way. Then who's the girl? And Elizabeth was born in 55 and William in 57. But neither of those have that high of a percentage. And Minnie was born at the end of 1866. So that if it was Minnie, then the boy would have been in the 1870 census, and he wasn't. There was none. And Ellen has a pretty high match, and so I think one of them was probably Ellen. And the boy would have been born in 63, and the photo about 65, and so I've got a lost child in the, you know, was born and died between census, and I have no record of him, so, you know. cute little kids, really cute. Ah, this is on my other side of the family, on my Tyler side. And this is Mary Ferris, and she was married to John Tyler in the 1850s. And I found this picture on the internet. What's her name? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Burris is who she married. I think it was Martha. I'm pretty sure her name was Martha. And I looked at her years ago thinking she's related. Because she was Martha Ferris, and she was in the same area of Arkansas as my Mary Ferris in Washington County area. And, but I could not connect them. I could not connect them. But it's one of those things you remember. And I ran across this photo and I said, boy, that sure looks a lot like Mary. So I compared 87%. So it told me they're sisters. They're actually half-sisters. But they're definitely related. And hasn't helped me get over my brick wall there, but piecing all this together, I had one more member of the family to look at. And I thought this was interesting. I compared Mary Ferris and Martha, and I got 58%. But look at those mouths, they look very similar. So it's not a perfect system, but most of the imperfections are lower, but you can run into some. So it really helps if you have some clues as to where the photos came from. I knew, Mary Ferris's photo came from early Stockton area, and the other ones were up in Petrolia area, different sides of the family, so you gotta be careful, nothing is perfect. So similar facial features, and generally, if they're not related, it's below 40%. But there are some a little bit higher, so just be aware. It's not gonna be 90%. Okay, so there's no right or wrong way to do this. Consider the approximate date of the photo, it's gonna help. And you're gonna have many variables, age of the person you're comparing to, age of the person in the photo, facial hair may affect it, similar facial features, so I think that's it. Any questions? It's something anybody could do.
Did you try clearing up any of the pictures, or did you leave them just as they were?
I left them just as they were, but I ended up picking up at the big genealogy convention that I'm going to church they just had. And I kind of was looking at part of it, and I picked up a program that'll take some of your photos and clear them up automatically.
Yeah, my heritage will do that.
Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah,
This sharpens them, and that's where people are getting them colored, but I like.
I want to keep them black and white, yeah. So this is a program probably similar to what my heritage, without having to pay for it, which I don't. Yeah. But yeah, so I would say it's a good idea to clear up any photo if you can. Sure.
Can you go over that? You talked about how you got the programs you used to get started on this.
What
Was family history or something about?
go to familysearch.org/discovery.
Okay, that's what it
Yeah. I don't always, but usually I have the bookmark, I just go right into family search and go to the library catalog and do it. And then as far as websites, I forgot what it was called. Photo Tree.
Is there a charge for Photo Tree?
No,
It's a free
it was just a free site I found, or somebody pointed out to me. And then they're the ones, there's a couple of published books, a lot of them, that's in the library. But I just Googled dating of photos and stuff, and I got several different websites. So there's several of them out there. Yeah. But I guess I wanted to show you how some of the crops, and that's how I identified people. I guess you could see on the one with my grandmother and her sisters. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. You can see the carpet there, and you can see that this is an odd chair.
Yeah, the arms look carved.
Yeah.
Almost, don't they?
Yeah, same, you can see that that's the same chair and the same things. And a lot of times, and some of them, I don't know, well, this one, you can see that chair identical to that chair, you know. So that sometimes that'll help. And then, that one. I thought I had. One of them had a tapestry thing. No, I don't have it in there. I know why you probably don't have it. It was one where my great uncle was a little boy, and there was this, he was standing next to this tapestry thing. Then I have another photo of a baby, and she's maybe about a year old because she setting on that same thing. And she's one I'm not able to identify, so I would know her birthday by when that photo was taken, and I haven't, but I can guess that she's probably either Ellen's or, I think Elizabeth's, one of their daughters.
How do you come up with the percentages?
Family Search does that for you. So when it compares them, it comes up with the percentages.
Oh, so you don't have.
I don't have to do it, yeah. I just have to look and say, hey, you know, their mouth looks alike, and it'll tell me that it is, yeah. Yeah, so it's not hard. You have to kind of think of a lot of things, so it's, you know, and it really is nice if you have a bunch of photos at home, and you know they came from, say, your grandmother or something. You know where, you know, what side of the family and stuff they would be, so that would help you get going and stuff. Okay? Okay,
That's great.
thank you.
Yeah.